Press the bell icon on the YouTube app to never miss a video from Newslaundry.
Welcome to Newslaundry Chhota Hafta. For the full episode, subscribe because it is behind the paywall and only subscribers get access to uncut, complete content. Newslaundry Hafta is our weekly wrap of all that made the news, all that didn't, and all that should have and all that shouldn't have. We agree, we disagree, we critique, and occasionally we beat each other up. But it's all good fun. Subscribe.
This is a Newslaundry podcast and you're listening to NL Hafta.
अंग्रेज अपना लगान और न्यूज़ लॉन्ड्री अपना हफ्ता कभी नहीं छोड़ते. Welcome to another episode and I wish I could greet you with a happy Holi, but there is very little that is happy with this Holi. We have just seen a horrific bloodbath in Delhi and the death count is up to 53 right now. It could go up. And the coronavirus has also hit India with about 30 cases. So I hope the year looks up from here. We've hit rock bottom. But going forward, I hope for the best. I hope for more. Before I introduce the panel, can I please request our listeners to pay to keep news free? Because when the public pays, the public is served. And when advertisers pay, advertisers served. Please pay to keep news free. And if you've seen the Newslaundry ground reports over the last week, 10 days, you can imagine the amount of time our wonderful reporters, and they are really young, idealistic bunch, spent out on the streets through the night. This takes time, money, energy, resources. So do consider subscribing to Newslaundry. Go to our website on the top right-hand corner. Click on Newslaundry subscribe button and pay to keep news free. Also, we have a couple of active Newslaundry Sena projects. One is the Who Owns Your Media project. And if the Chhattisgarh project hasn't been topped up already, that also may still be around. Although I'm very happy to say so many of you contributed and we had collected almost 60 to 70% of the total amount already. The other project is Who Owns Your Media? Media ownership is a tricky business and it requires a lot of time, effort and research. This has been active for a long time. If you could please quickly top up this project and request your friends to as well. We can just start going on this because you've already got a certain amount of minimum research ready. So do check it out. Also, we have country and city specific WhatsApp groups for subscribers. So we can keep you posted on what's happening like Delhi, NCR, Mumbai, Bangalore, Pune, etc. So if you're a subscriber and want to be added to the subscriber WhatsApp group of your region, mail us your contact number on contact@newslaundry.com with the city and the country. So we can add you to that city and country WhatsApp group. It'll help us plan events better. So here is what happened in Delhi and what occupied all news professionals and viewers. The Delhi violence, was it a riot? Was it a pogrom? Was it just communal carnage? I don't know what term to give it. We'll discuss that. That can continue to dominate the news. New cases have been registered. I'm not sure any case have been registered against police personnel who are also caught on camera doing horrific stuff. A new video has emerged of a mob beating up policemen and actually bashing one of them. We don't know what actually is the specific action taken against them. Then there is the AAP councillor Tahir Hussain who has come back and surrendered. Then there was that press conference by the police saying that they had actually rescued him, and then a clarification was issued later that no, we had not rescued him. Then here, hate speech pleas on Friday, the Supreme Court has told the High Court. The High Court was kicking this can down the road on the hate speeches, and they had, I think, given the police some 4 weeks or 5 weeks to decide to file the reason why they haven't filed FIRs. Then the Delhi police probe says that WhatsApp group were created to spread hate just before the surge in Delhi violence. Delhi government sets up 9 shelters for riot hit people. Arvind Kejriwal has announced, and a bunch of other measures. How well or not they're doing is still up for debate. Then Kejriwal has announced 10 lakh compensation for the family of the deceased of all the riot victims, but 1 crore for the IB official who was killed. I don't quite get why one life is worth more than the other, but anyway. Then Mamata Banerjee has weighed in saying the Delhi violence was a planned genocide. Regarding the sedition case, the AAP government has given a nod to prosecute Kanhaiya Kumar. Then the CA violence accused are named and shamed on Yogi Adityanath's orders. Big banners have been put out in parts of UP. And this includes people that they were, perpetrators of violence or trouble. The same people who the court in UP had said the police has no evidence against them. How the hell have you arrested them? But Mr. Yogi ji doesn't care. He has put their pictures and is doing the naming and shaming. So clearly our country is in some la-la land. Then COVID-19, which is the name given to the coronavirus, is bang in India now, 30 confirmed cases and expected to go up. Some offices in Gurgaon have been closed for 15 days because some employees tested positive. Schools are shut in Delhi for the next, I think, 15, 20 days. Justice Muralidhar was given a very amazing goodbye by the Delhi High Court. He is the judge who was transferred, who heard the Delhi case on filing hate speech FIRs against those netas who really came down heavily on the police. At 11 o'clock at night, he was given an order to go to Haryana, Punjab and Haryana High Court. His farewell from the Delhi High Court was quite a remarkable one. You can see the pictures and hopefully Newslaundry will have a piece on that. Parliament was stalled because of a ruckus created and 7 members have been suspended. We shall discuss that in a little more detail. Meanwhile, internationally, Elizabeth Warren is out of the presidential race. Now it's 2 old men. And I think that about winds up the headlines. Now, let me introduce the panel. So, on the panel of the Hafta today, we have our in-house team of Raman Kirpal.
Hi.
Mehraj
Hello.
Lone.
Hello.
Anand Vardhan from Patna.
Hello.
Hi, Anand. And joining us from England is Kapil Komireddi. Did I pronounce that right, Kapil?
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
So a little bit about you. You were born in India. You were educated in England. You've written from South Asia, Eastern Europe, Middle East. And you have written for The Economist, The New York Times, Washington Post, The Spectator, Time Magazine, and a whole bunch of other foreign publications. Your first book, Malevolent Republic, A Short History of New India, was published in India and UK in 2019. And it won a lot of critical acclaim. And it was named a Critics' Book of the Summer by the Financial Times and the Times Literary Supplement. And a book of the year by India Today and Business Standard. You are a contributor to Monocle Radio and you live between Hyderabad and London.
That's correct. Yes.
And right now you're in London.
That's correct. Yes.
So let's start off with the biggest headline and the newsmaker of the week, which was the Delhi violence. Now, let me come to our guest, Kapil. First, you have observed this from a completely outsider kind of perspective from London. Foreign media, I'm guessing, is what you consume. Before you give me your commentary on what you think of its coverage, what was lacking, what wasn't, I have 2 specific questions. One, there is much debate here on whether this should be called a riot or not, because I wasn't really aware that a riot suggests a spontaneous battle between 2 communities or organizations or whatever it is on the streets. And some people want to give it the term pogrom because it has the state is an active participant. So A, how should it be categorized in your view? And B, do you think the criticism that the foreign media has been very one-sided in its coverage is accurate? Over to you, Kapil.
Right. So a riot implies a spontaneous eruption of violence. We know for a fact that a spontaneous eruption would not have the kind of preparation that we've seen here. You know, people were equipped. People were brought in from outside Delhi to attack and to rampage through the streets, to vandalize places of worship. I don't think this is a riot. I think this wasn't quite a pogrom either, because a pogrom requires a standard that this violence hasn't quite met. There are elements of a pogrom there. I describe this as a prelude to a full-blown pogrom, and people such as your organization and other young reporters have actually, in the manner in which they covered it, the aggressive coverage they lavished upon this violence, they managed to stem the violence because they managed to create an awareness around the world of what was happening. And this was happening in Delhi. And I think the government felt compelled to take action after 3 days of the city burning and count of dozens of people being killed in the violence. But I don't think it is emphatically not a riot. It has all the elements of a riot, but because there was a spontaneous eruption at the moment, but it grew into something that could have become a pogrom had it not been stopped.
And what about the criticism that the foreign media has a very one-sided coverage? In fact, the BBC has a function on the 8th of March, I think it is, for an award for sportswomen in India. And the head of Prasar Bharati, what's his name?
The public broadcaster.
The public broadcaster, his name will just come to me. He has refused to attend, saying that the BBC had a very one-sided coverage of this. Do you think the foreign media has been extremely selective in what it has chosen to highlight?
I think the foreign media's coverage has. I think there's a lack of nuance for sure. There are two sides here. One is that anything that is not complimentary about India is vilified in India by the trolls as anti-India bias, and that vilification tends to obscure the fact that some of the coverage of India actually isn't very nuanced anymore. A lot of the people who write about the rise of Hindu nationalism, about the current regime, do not talk about the causes that gave rise to the regime. They do not mention the fact that why the CAA was necessitated. They do not mention how the CAA actually functions. And this is a work, I don't think this is an act of design. I think when a perception builds up that a country is in decline, there's very little capability among people who cover that country from a distance to actually introduce nuance into it. It sort of, when a piece is written in Delhi and sent to London or to New York for editing, I think the editors add their own language, they compress language, and nuance somehow gets eliminated from that coverage. There is certainly a lack of nuance, and the way India is now being perceived is quite injurious to India's prospects. It's certainly its economy. So I accept, there's a lack of nuance in how India is covered, but I don't think there is a conspiracy, if you will, to defame India. I think India is supplying enough material to people who dislike India and people who don't know much about India, people who are just beginning to learn about India. India is giving them enough material to think that India isn't the kind of place they thought or they wanted to be.
Right. I'll just move on to Anand, but before that, just a couple of headlines. And Kapil, do let me know when you have to go. It's fine. I understand you have a packed schedule, so I appreciate that. So a few things happened when this entire, Delhi violence unfolded. One was several videos came about. One of them shows how a cop was pulled into a crowd and bashed. And I don't know if it's that same cop who later died or that's a separate case. Because
It hasn't been confirmed yet what the case
but
is.
he was taken to the hospital. He was bleeding.
Yes.
And it shows like about a bunch of maybe 30 or 40 cops caught in a mob of a few hundred from either side, stoning them, and one of them gets pulled in. That recently came about, and that was used, in fact, on primetime yesterday to justify the cops' heavy-handedness. Then there were several videos of the cops either assisting Hindu mobs or, bashing up people who were already, lying and bleeding. One of them has eventually died. We have an interview with the young boy who took that video of the cops beating up a bunch of Muslim youths and making them sing the national anthem. We will come to how the AAP has reacted and how the Prime Minister has reacted and everything after this. But this is what happened as far as the violence is concerned. The death toll now is 53 people, and we don't know if it will go up. It might. So coming to you, Anand, what is the term you would give to this violence? Because I really am conflicted about that. And about the same thing that Kapil spoke about. Well, he says there is a lack of nuance, but yet the whole thing that if India is not shown in good light, it is anti-India conspiracy. Are we a little too churlish and childish about how the foreign media covers us?
Okay, so about the classification of the violence, I would classify it as a communal violence only, not pogrom or
Or riot.
and even more in more exaggerated terms as genocide. It was neither a pogrom nor a genocide, but a communal violence. It is not very different from other forms of communal violence, except 2 or 3 things. I had a premonition of this anti and pro Shia groups somehow getting into a violent confrontation. Before this violence, it had some flashes of such violent confrontation in other parts of the country, including Bihar. In Patna, there was a confrontation between the 2 groups, but on such, and there were other parts of India, but on a very low intensity level, or but Delhi being the hub of protest, mainly anti-Shia protests, and a kind of say retaliatory kind of backlash being built up by political players, as well as a kind of person who is easily taken into this. But now that was the thing. Now, second thing is the sequence of events through video footage or something is still not clear. Means people have fragments of video here, there. They are disturbing incidents in itself, but they don't explain a sequence. So only an investigation can actually establish a sequence. And in that sense, for all its flaws, the police investigation, if done well, is the only thing to look for, because there are two things that separate police. First is that they would have access to information which generally journalists can't demand from people because of being the authorized agency to seek information about any violation of law. They would get information which otherwise people would not get. Second, they would have to stand by whatever facts they find in court. They would have to supplement adequate evidence to support that. So only when the sequence of events is clear, then we can arrive at a definition of it. Also, one element also I would like to say that the causal relationship, the cause and effect relationship, that what caused it is still very hazy. Means, and it's never clear that what actually caused it. Now, a spontaneous preparation from both communities, what the initial probe say, WhatsApp group have been created beforehand to supply, volatile information. So these things, I think it would be too early to define the nature of violence.
Okay, so before I come to Mehraj and Raman sir, and I have the same question, I just had one quick response, Anand, if you can give me. I'm curious to know that while you said that for all its flaws, you'll still like the police to carry out the investigation. So in your eyes, there is enough out there for us to trust the police. And I ask in the context of Justice Muralidhar's hearing, where a video of Kapil Sharma and that
DSP
Verma's, that Sahib Singh's son's
Parvesh
speech,
Verma,
which had been, wall to wall, it had been shown everywhere. The police said, we are not aware of this speech, we haven't seen it yet, that's why we haven't taken any action. And also in light of all the videos of the Delhi police actually handing rocks to people and beating them up, you still believe that the police is the best chance we have of finding out what happened?
No, what I'm saying is that with all flaws, because the police still could have, first communication gap, and all is to say that all investigation would be prejudiced because of that. I don't buy that theory, because police is also constituted of different sets of people. So also the kind of information that it can dig would be far greater than any other organization.
No, that's what I mean. Considering there was a video that pretty much everybody in the country had seen.
A cop was standing next to him.
And but the police had not seen it. You believe that they will have information that we don't, when
the
exact opposite is true.
When they would investigate, they would put everything on the table.
Okay. So, Mehraj, how about you? How would you classify this and why? And about the foreign angle?
Classification, I think I would go with the word carnage, so communal carnage. So I think I've discussed this before. So I was editing this book on the communal riots in Bhagalpur in Gujarat. So, and we discussed how we should classify it. Then we decided on carnage, because communal violence doesn't convey the gravity of the situation. And like Kapil rightly said, it doesn't reach to the level of a pogrom right now. And riots, like you said...
So you're saying it doesn't reach the level of pogrom, that's in sheer numbers or scale or...
Yes,
or visible state involvement.
Yes, and after 3 days, the government did whatever it did, it controlled it. And so even if there was state backing, but it was only to a limited extent. The essential feature of a program, of course, is also the scale and also the complicity of the state.
Active state involvement.
So carnage, I think, sort of conveys the whole thing. As for the foreign coverage, yeah, it's true. I mean, it's going to happen everywhere. Even if Indian media is covering a foreign country, this is not going to be much nuance. But as the facts are concerned, nobody has disputed the facts. The biggest controversy, the biggest talking point was the Wall Street Journal reporting that IB officer's brother saying that there was a Hindu mob there.
Yes.
He didn't say the Hindu mob killed him.
But
he said there was a Hindu mob. And that is not disputed. We have a story up. Ayush went on the ground and he found there was actually a Hindu mob right across the street from where this person was killed. So that's not disputed. So nobody has disputed the fact. So when we are talking about that they are lying or whatever, nobody has countered any fact. So it's just that they're showing this thing, and there's this idea that I remember this, one of our subscribers, Raj Shekhar, had written this beautiful piece for us about the Hindutva, how the Hindutva man sort of, what is his psychology. And one aspect is that from childhood, he's been taught that India is great. Nothing bad ever happens in India. And then he sees this foreign media coverage of this, and it only shows India in a negative light because that's what's happening. And his sense of pride is hurt. And then he blames everybody but himself for all these ills.
Right.
As for the role of the police, I completely disagree with Anand. If we have to find the truth, we have to go beyond I don't know to which institution, but beyond police, beyond the usual institutions of state. This is a police which not only sided with the rioters, not only was complicit in the violence. You have plenty of videos around with the police going and breaking CCTV cameras to destroy evidence.
Yeah.
And this was not just some rotten apples within the police who were doing this.
Yeah,
this was institutional. And what's the evidence for that? Like you said, the court hearing. There's a police officer standing right next to Kapil Mishra when he makes that speech. And now they're saying we haven't even seen that.
We're not aware of it, right? Raman sir, what is your view?
No, if you look at the context, the politicians, the kind of war, the verbal war which was happening before this took place, is they're trying to project as if it is a war between two civilizations. Okay, this is what was building up with the kind of,
it's a civilizational clash, which also Jaggi, who I think has completely lost his mind.
So these people, and there were attempts, people had come with pistol at Shaheen Bagh also to, there was an attempt, to create some kind of violence, to escalate it, but that is Muslim dominated area, completely Muslim dominated area. Things did not happen. If you look at the geography of Northeast Delhi, it is different. You have Muslim pockets surrounded by Hindus, and you have a couple of Muslim dominated areas. Okay, so I personally feel prima facie it was deliberate. It was started with some intentions
and
to teach a lesson,
considering where it was started,
civilization, and then the Muslims, in where they were larger in number, they reacted to it. Okay, they also reacted to it. They also killed
Hindus.
Hindus. So I think it was a riot, full blown riot.
Now, before we move on, the amount of time and effort it takes to report, you should really speak to a reporter friend. And the amount of compromises the media is doing is truly alarming. There was a piece today, in fact, where Abhinav Kumar wrote in the Indian Express, who is usually really bats for the police, has said how every institution has failed in this riot or whatever it was that happened in Delhi, including the media. And you know why that is? Because the media depends on either government ads or large corporations. And large corporations are scared of the government because they can shut a corporation like that. So they will advertise what is, in favor of the overwhelming narrative. So unless you pay to keep news free, you can keep whining about how bad news is, this, that, and the other. Nothing's going to happen. But you can change the narrative if you want of how news is reported. Ground reports are the soul of news, not shouting matches. So I would urge you to pay to keep news free. Go to newslaundry.com, click on the subscribe button, because when the public pays, the public is served. And for those of you who already subscribe, thank you guys so much. You can please urge and nudge your friends to do the same. And like I mentioned in the beginning, we are setting up WhatsApp group, which are region, country, and area and city-wise, so that we can plan our events better. Do send us your contact number if you want to be added onto the group and the city or the country, because we are going to have groups along these cities and regions right now and going forward maybe more. Delhi NCR, Mumbai, Bangalore, Pune, Hyderabad. And for overseas, we have groups which are Europe, US, Canada, Singapore, and Dubai. And why we need you to add your names is because judging by the size of the subscription group in every city or region, we will plan our events. And like I said, we plan a lot of events. We're planning many events over the next couple of years. And this year for sure. So now I'd just like to move on to the coronavirus, which has become a huge news story. This morning it was on CNN, on BBC. It was on all our Desi channels who for a change were not doing Hindu-Muslim. So a couple of things that were revelation to me. One is that, I mean, I'm not saying that one shouldn't be careful or shouldn't, but the overall, the percentage of people who die as from the total who get infected is like
Fatality
2%.
rate. Fatality rate.
The fatality is 2%, out of which the fatality, if you are between 20 to 50, is like 1.1%, not even 0.9%. If you are between like 10 and 20, it's like 0.2%. And if you're above 60, then it's like 8%. It is, for a young person, it is very low, the fatality rate. And that actually was not what I had got from what I had heard. That, it seems a lot more alarming. But when you actually see the age-wise breakup of fatality, for a young, fit person, this is like a flu which goes. It comes and
That's
goes.
what, it's like a flu. So
Any other
people
flu which doesn't have a medicine right now.
whose immune system is weak, which is the old and the very young, they are more susceptible to it. So if you have a decent immune system, if you are healthy, so you should be able to survive it. But that is not the only factor. I mean, fatality rate is 2%, doesn't mean only those people will die. In a country like India, without any proper healthcare system,
Right.
you're asking for a disaster.
Right.
Even
30
if
have been tested positive so far in India, out of which 15 are Italian tourists who are in Delhi.
So I've been saying this, India got so incredibly lucky because the first 3 cases that came before this became a panic came to Kerala. If you want a disaster, I mean, I shouldn't say this, but that's the place where you want it
Because
to
they
be.
controlled SARS so well.
SARS
back
and
in
Nipah, they have the health infrastructure.
Absolutely
They
superb.
have the, more importantly, they have the political will and the civic
Discipline.
consciousness to deal with these things.
And they make less noise
If
also.
this thing had come to, say, like North India,
Khattar.
anywhere in North
if Mr.
India,
Khattar had been presiding
before
over
they
this.
started screening and all these things, I dread to imagine what would have
No,
happened.
in
Do you
fact,
know who
Kerala's
the-
controlling of SARS and MARS was considered one of the best in the world, not just in India.
Even Nipah.
Do you know
like
who
2
the
years
health
ago.
minister is?
Where?
In Kerala.
Who?
A lady, but
Oh, it's a lady. No.
Sujata. her name
she
is.
fabulous person, unassuming, and
Yeah,
she's
I
the one
believe-
who has been, and she did the SARS thing. I
Right.
read her interview at that time.
In fact, Dhanya tweeted that she's an amazing minister. So, Kapil, you can tell me what the situation in UK is and how big a deal is it? I mean, are people, like in America, there are many cities where toilet paper has gone out of stock, hand wash has gone out of stock. Yeah, what's it like in the UK, Kapil?
Well, there have been about 150 cases, and yesterday there was 1 death. A woman with underlying conditions died. And the tragedy, as it unfolds, is also revealing the consequences of cuts to healthcare. Britain has shed about 160,000 hospital beds over the past 4 decades, actually. So now this country has one of the lowest per capita beds, hospital beds, fewest hospital beds across Europe. And if this crisis escalates, you will see hospitals clogged up, fewer doctors, very few resources to deal with the problem. I do not have expertise in corona, and I don't like to say what people should and shouldn't do. And I just think, I don't like to dispense advice on this, and I've just stayed very mum on it. But what this reveals really, the underlying, when nations aren't prepared, when they make cuts to essential services exist for a reason. And when they make cuts to them when the sun is shining, they inevitably pay for it when the sun goes down. And that's what we're witnessing here. And India, you just mentioned Kerala, and the health minister's name is Shailaja. She's quite brilliant.
Right.
But in other parts of India, in Telangana, where I'm from, they're distributing homeopathic pills. This, and I really worry about the consequences if this begins to spread in India.
Okay, this is the last email, and after this, guys, please have your recommendations ready. This is from Tarun. Hi, Abhinandan. Congratulations to everyone on completing 8 years. I became a subscriber last month after listening as a Mufat course for almost 3 years. Your rants do work. Thank you, Tarun. I'm glad they do. Now, coming straight to the feedback, please do more interviews. I have enjoyed all the ones that Newslaundry did this month. Taking from the same point, I love Nuisance and have made sure that my mom and dad watch it every week. They have started loving it as well. Niku and only Niku should be the host till you guys find a better person to host Hafta. All other people who host in the absence are well researched, but Niku has a special aura. Oh, thank you, Tarun. I needed that. Yes, you can abuse once in a while as long as it doesn't become a Sacred Games episode. I see that you guys are getting people from different points of view, left, right, center, whatever. Please continue to do so. It never makes me take things for granted. Please tell Anand to use lighter vocabulary. I'm an MBS graduate, but I'm not that well read. Please start a business podcast where the likes of Vivek and Amit Verma and all business news channels offer, common man's point of view. I have been working in the oil and gas industry for 13 years, currently based out of Dubai. Any plans of some conference here? Also, I'm the same guy who coaxed Niku on Twitter to recognize me on becoming a subscriber. Thanks, Tarun. Dubai mein, I doubt free speech ka conference karunga main. Or as the Hindu right troll would do, जाके Saudi में करके दिखा दे.
There's actually, I think Sudhir Chaudhary is doing something in Dubai.
Oh yeah,
today.
Tarun, Sudhir Chaudhary in Dubai having a conference on WION about the importance of reporting true, accurate news in an environment where it's very hard. You should go for that, yeah.
Ask some questions.
But I don't know, maybe we should do something in Dubai. Let's see, we are planning a lot of things. We have 2 people coming just who will be doing events. So expect a lot of events from Newslaundry for our subscribers only this coming year because we are hiring a team only for that. So on that note, Anand, please use lighter vocabulary. Tarun can't understand when you payload so much gyan in such heavy words कि भाई सबके ऊपर से निकल जाता है. ठीक है? You have to dumb it down. Pretend, everyone is like me. You have to do like that. So on that note, thank you, dear panel, for the wonderful discussion. Why you should pay to keep news free. Because if you leave it to large organizations, then they can arm twist you any way they want. And by you, I mean me. But if I don't have to depend on Mukesh Bhai, hey Mukesh Bhai, salam thoko, salam thoka, CNN, IBN, salam thoka, NDTV, salam thoka, Sudhir Chaudhary, salam thoka, Abhinandan Sekhri, salam thoko, ille boss. अब उनका पैसा ना सब्सक्राइबर से आता है, तुझसे नहीं, तू सलाम ठोक. That is why I say pay to keep news free, because when the public pays, the public is served. When advertisers pay, advertisers served. सुन लिया अफ्रीका, मुफत खोरों. Not to brag or anything, but Newslaundry Hafta features in the top 50 in the world on SoundCloud in the news and politics category for podcasts. So do subscribe and see what you're missing, because when the public pays, the public is served. When advertisers pay, advertisers are served. Subscribe, help keep news independent and free. All Newslaundry podcasts are available on iTunes and Stitcher and any other podcast platform.